Okay, so this class is a continuation from last class about feminism and Judaism. And this class, I would like to begin to explore the topic of, does halacha oppress women? Okay? And this is a question that there's a follow-up as to whether the Torah looks down upon women, whether the Torah actually thinks the women are less worthy, less valuable than men, and does it discriminate against them in professional places, in political places. And this time I would like to begin to speak about in halakha, in mitzvahs, in religious things. Does religion, the religion of Judaism, obviously of Orthodox Judaism, does it discriminate against women? Okay, so in an oppressive way, or in any way. Okay, so the first thing before we actually go through the different examples of things that are here to discuss. So I want to give two introductions, and that is that first of all, if somebody would come and ask me, Rabbi, does halacha oppress women? So I would ask him, why do you ask? Okay, which is often a good response to anybody that asks you any question. Okay? But especially because you really never know. you really know. Rabbi, what does the halacha say about committing suicide? It's always good to know where your question is coming from, and particularly over here, I think that there's two opposite, different kinds of perspectives from which this question could possibly come. That one possible answer is that, well, because I think that halacha is oppressive, and I would like to change halacha because I find it oppressive, and I want you to join me. And that's one perspective. And the other perspective is that, well, that I love Torah and I love Hashem, and there's things that bother me. There's things that I feel are wrong, and I would like to resolve them in a way that I feel at peace. Okay, and so these are two opposite approaches. These are two opposite perspectives from which the question is coming. That one, the former is that me and halacha are enemies, and I'm fighting against halacha, and the latter is that me and halacha are friends, and I want to embrace it, and I want to make peace with it, and that's why I want to learn about it. That's why I want to delve into it in a way that it's going to be able to sit well with me. So these are really opposite perspectives, and so really the first question before we start this conversation, we need to agree that we want to be friends with Torah. We want to be friends with Judaism, and the truth is that a lot of the feminism, there is a school of feminism which is about aggressivity, which is about being ferocious, which is actually built around the ferociousness of women. That at the beginning of, I think at the 1980s, I forgot who it was who coined the term, "I'm a woman, hear my roar." And this kind of feminism is based on a feeling of a reaction of being oppressed, and just like, I feel like I've been silenced my whole life, and now I just need to scream, and so it doesn't matter what I'm screaming. I have the right to scream, so I'm going to scream. And that I'm a woman, hear my roar is obviously, it's not coming from a healthy place. It's coming from a sad place. But it's not like I have rachmanas on people to feel that they're being silenced, to feel like they're being choked. But that shouldn't really change the actual objective discussion of what Torah represents. There's also a lot of room in the feminist movement. There's a room for simple selfishness and egocentricity, and what I mean is that a person that puts on the table that I am an activist, so that's already a red flag. When a person says that I am an activist, so why exactly are you an activist? So that oftentimes that means that I was looking for a job, and I wanted a certain spotlight, I wanted a certain position, and this is where I feel that I am empowered. I feel that I am doing something. I feel like people look up to me, and and it's all about what I'm doing, and it's about my accomplishments and how much I can wage war, and that's not like, I don't think that's a very Jewish value, objectively. Like to be focused on yourself, to be focused on, I want to stand up for my rights. Like of course Judaism doesn't think that anybody should be a pushover, but in general, when we have a choice between caring about yourself or caring about others, so our heroes were always the ones who put themselves to the side and cared about others. So if I'm going to build my life around the idea of promoting myself and fighting for my rights, so that's a very egocentric state of mind, which is not a very Jewish state of mind. So there's a basic midos problem in a person that builds their life around that I want my rights. Okay, that's like nobody holy is like that. Holy people are always the people that no, you first. Like that's the way holy people act. And so, like, if you would have a male feminist, then that would be holy, right? But like, if you're a woman, so like, I don't buy the fact that like you really care about all the other people. It's like, really you care about yourself, and even though it's true that you should be caring about other people, but if it's really just a disguise for the fact that you're caring about yourself, so then that's not a very Jewish value. Okay, so and this is the this is like, and I know people that they're very progressive, and they're very much for making Judaism into a more giving women more rights than they've had until now in Judaism, in religious Judaism, and yet they're against a certain group. I won't mention their names, so just call them women of the even though like they do believe in the concept of empowering women, but like in the way that it's done and with the mentality from which it's done, it just didn't sit well with them, because like it stops being about Hashem, it starts being about my ferociousness. So this is the first introduction is that in this question of like, why do you ask if halacha is oppressive to women? So we have to ask ourselves that, am I coming as halacha's friend, or am I coming as halacha's enemy? Okay? And on this note, I want to share with you a Torah from the Vilna Gaon, that there's a pasuk that says that lo tasar min hadavar asher yagidu locha yamin u'smal. That the pasuk is in Parashat Shoftim, and it says about the fact that the people are obligated to listen to the highest rabbinical court, to the Sanhedrin, and it says that do not sway from what the rabbis tell you to the right or to the left. That's what the pasuk says. So there's a very interesting midrash, the comments on this pasuk, that don't go right or left, and it says even if they tell you that the right is left and the left is right. That's how much you should never sway from the rabbis, even if they tell you that the right is left and left is right. Okay, which at face value seems like the Torah is promoting blind faith, and like, don't just shut up, stop thinking, just turn off your brain and just accept, yes, the holy rabbis know better than me, 2 and 2 is 5. But the Vilna Gaon says a very beautiful interpretation of this midrash, and he says that how could it possibly be that they're saying that this is the right and you're saying it's the left? There's only one possibility that they're saying it's right and you're saying it's left, and that's if you're standing opposite them. If you're standing opposite somebody, so then their right is your left and their left is your right. Whereas if you are in the same direction as them, so then their right is your right and their left is your left. So when the Torah is saying, Lo tasar min hadavar asher yagidu locha yamin u'smal, so the Vilna Gaon explains that what it means is that if your perspective is that you're going against the rabbis, that they're always, like, I always want to try to pick fights with them, I always want to try to put them down, prove why they're wrong, prove why they're not making sense, prove why there's some moral issue with what they're saying. So then I'm always going to find it. I'm always going to find reasons to say that what they're saying is right, what I say is right and there's left, because I'm actually going against them, because I'm actually standing opposite them. And my problem is really me. It's really, the problem is not anything that they said. My problem is that I'm facing the wrong way. Like, start looking at them as your friend, and then everything will make sense. Okay? So this is introduction number 1. Okay? That this question needs to be coming from a place of really seeking truth, and like I love Hashem, I love Torah, and I have this problem. I do feel that this is I feel sad that I can't connect with Hashem in this way, or that the Torah is pushing me into this corner in some way, whatever it is, that it's coming from a place that I want it to work, not that I want to fight. Okay? Now, introduction number 2 is that to realize that the question of halacha, like who is this Mr. Halacha? Okay, so the introduction number 2 is to understand that when we're talking about halacha, so we're talking about the Word of God, okay, as opposed to a bunch of male rabbis. Okay, and this is a common phrase that I hear, that how dare a bunch of male rabbis, a bunch of men, tell me about what's going on with my body, or to going on with how I should dress, or how can they put me down like this? And like it seems clear to them that the reason why halacha is written in a certain way is as a result of the fact that it's written by men. Okay, and therefore that when they're equating the halacha as being chauvinist because of the values of the chauvinist values, so to speak, of the people writing halacha. So this is another mistake. Like we can't have a conversation if we're talking about halacha as being written by chauvinist men that are trying to oppress women. So then the conversation isn't really going to get anywhere. A very basic premise in Judaism is that we trust the rabbis, we trust Chazal, we trust all those who were involved in transmitting the Torah, that they were moral people, and that they had no interest in their personal power. They had no interest in making a situation that they would be on top and women would be on the bottom, and that a Jewish leader by nature needs to be a person who is actually looking for what Hashem wants. And this is it's a common misconception of that rabbis don't actually have power. That there is no power. That I remember hearing people having this misconception about rabbis that I got a heter from my rabbi. What does that mean? I got they really think that the rabbis are allotted, when they get smicha, they're allotted a certain amount of heter passes, and they're allowed to use up to 5 a day, and I don't know what should be the criteria of what you need to give me that I should give you a heter pass of. We'll talk. And I need to explain to these people there is no such thing as I got a heter from a rabbi. That a rabbi can simply understand, because of his knowledge of halacha, because of the way that he or she understands halacha. No, we'll get to that soon. But because of their understanding of the way the halacha works, because of their understanding of what it says, what the Torah says, so they can read the text better than you and understand the text better than you, and therefore give you a better understanding of what Hashem really wants you to do, better than you could do yourself. That's the job of a rabbi. There's no such thing as a rabbi giving you a heter. That with the rabbi saying it's mutter, what he's saying is that no, Hashem actually thinks it's okay. And even if you think that it says in Shulchan Aruch otherwise, you misunderstood. Either you didn't look at the other commentaries, or you didn't know that there's other disagreeing opinions, or that you just didn't understand that the whole thing is a metaphor, or you didn't understand that the whole thing is talking about a certain circumstance that doesn't exist in this circumstance. Whatever it is, that what they're saying is that this is actually what Hashem is saying. It's not that a rabbi can't go against Hashem. A rabbi can't go against halacha. That there's no such thing as that. There's no power to a rabbi. So because the job of a rabbi is always just to interpret what is actually Hashem saying, what does Hashem actually want to what does Hashem actually want there to be? So there is no power involved. So because there's no power, so it's ridiculous, it's absurd to think that because of the rabbi's desire for power, so that's why he's calling the shots in a way that is going to suppress women. Okay. So this is the second introduction. The question of is halacha suppressing? We have to ask ourselves, like, who is this Mr. Halacha? So this Mr. Halacha is actually God. It's not some male rabbis. And the truth is that these two introductions are actually somewhat interrelated, because if the people that I'm arguing with are the rabbis, so then it's easy to look at them as the enemy, because they are the male suppressors. And whereas if it's God, so then I don't really want to fight with God. I'd rather make peace with God, even if it's just for the reason that because he's bigger and stronger than me, hopefully it would be for a deeper reason, that I actually do love God and I actually do appreciate that God is good and that God is true, and God wouldn't say something that is actually immoral. That once I realize that Mr. Halacha is actually God, so then it makes more sense to want to make peace with him as opposed to coming against him as a head-on collision. Okay, so this is these are the two introductions that in order to start this conversation about is halacha oppressive to women. And so now I want to begin the discussion of different examples in Judaism where a woman or a man who's sensitive to women could find the Torah to be discriminatory against women, and we'll go one by one and see what it actually says, and if there's actually a discrimination going on. So I want to start with women of the let's start. So I started this also, my daughter saw me preparing class today, and she asked me what I'm giving class about, and I said I'm giving class about women, like if women are discriminated against, and I asked her, do you feel that there's things that you wish you could do in Judaism that you aren't able to do? And she said, yeah, I think there are. First of all, she said learning Torah, which we'll get to very soon. That and I understand why it's that was the first thing she said, because in our house, so the boys are always learning Torah, and whenever she knows that the boys come home very late because they're in yeshiva, they only get home at 10:30 at night. They know that whenever I'm not home, it's because I'm learning Torah, and it's something which is very present in her life, that the boys in the house are always learning Torah, and she knows that that's not part of her world, and that she feels sort of left out from that element. And I said, what else? And she said, well, tefillin. She thinks it would be cool to wear tefillin, and she feels left out, that she isn't able to wear tefillin. So I want to start with that, with the example of tefillin, because I think it's actually a very good case study in an approaches to feminism in general. So first of all, is it permissible for a woman to wear tefillin or not? So it starts with the fact that women are exempt from tefillin. The reason why women are exempt from tefillin is because it's a positive time-bound mitzvah grama. Now, but that's only half the story, because most women perform most mitzvahs shayshas grama. They love it. They love it. Everybody likes hearing shofar. Everybody likes sitting on a sukkah. It's nice to do mitzvahs. So even if they're not obligated, so they do it. So why shouldn't a woman? Why even Shema? They aren't obligated to say Shema. Why shouldn't a woman? Just because it's mitzvah shayshas grama, so you're not obligated, but you can do it anyway, right? So by tefillin, so it is exceptional, even though other mitzvahs shayshas grama they're invited and encouraged to do. So tefillin is an exception. And why is that? It's because it says in Targum Yonos Amenuziah that this is Paskin and Halacha in the Sefer Levush, that one of the interpretations of the prohibition of cross-dressing is that it's forbidden for women to wear men's clothing. So one of the examples that the Targum Yonos says that this is a specific prohibition on women wearing tefillin. That tefillin is considered men's clothing, and for a woman to wear men's clothing is considered a figurative cross-dressing. Now what does that mean? Well, and why would tefillin be different than other mitzvahs? So there's and this is true about tzitzis as well. Now that's why the same discussion, the same problem. There's two exceptions. The women are prohibited from wearing tefillin, from wearing tzitzis, as opposed to every other mitzvah that they're encouraged to do. So the difference between these two mitzvahs and every other mitzvah is every other mitzvah is something that you do, and talis and tefillin are something that you wear. Okay, so
what about kippah?
Kippah is just a custom. I wouldn't call that. I would call that just a social norm. That even for men, like for
a lot of the wall women, their whole argument. I've talked to them before, and their whole argument is that Rashi's daughter wore tefillin, and therefore it must be okay.
There's no historical evidence that Rashi's daughters wore tefillin. There's also in the same conversation they talk about the daughter of Shaul, the Micha Bashal, the wife of David Melech, that she also might have worn tefillin, and in that discussion there's a dispute as to whether or not the rabbis told her that it's not a good idea, and so there's if there would be evidence that the daughters of Rashi did it, so then that would be another story. But if there's no evidence and it's just a legend, and there's legitimate halachic basis that it's prohibited, so then it's really like not a good idea, right? So the question is why? The question is why is this different than other mitzvahs? Why that? And so the difference is that every other mitzvah is something you do, and this is something that you wear. What does it mean, something that you wear? So that the idea is that by wearing something, so I'm becoming something else. Okay, it's not something I'm doing; I'm becoming. So because the idea of the mitzvah of tefillin and talis is that I'm by putting these things on and becoming something else. So then we really ask ourselves, well, is a woman actually becoming something else? So we said last time, but I'll repeat, that why is it that women are exempt from mitzvahs such as Shazva and Grandma? Why are they exempt from these mitzvahs? So it's because, in general, so the Ramchal explains that the reason why they're exempt is because they're naturally on a higher level, right? So they don't need these mitzvahs in order to bring them close to Hashem. So if the entire purpose of a mitzvah is to become something, so if I'm already there, then it's actually pointless. It's actually absurd, and that if the whole purpose of the mitzvah is to make me become something that I already am, so then what exactly are you doing? If you go to a gas station and say, fill me up, and he says, you're full. So he says, okay, fine, I'm full, but it can't hurt. And he'll look at you like you're silly. What do you mean can't hurt you? You're there. You're there. There is nothing to do right now. Right? Somebody asked the Chazon Ish about if he thinks that a certain thing is a good idea, and he says, no, I don't think it's a good idea. And so he asked him, okay, but can't hurt. So the Chazon Ish told him that there was once a guy that his glasses broke, and so that the lenses were shattered. So he walked around with a frame. He was walking around with the frame of the glasses, and so somebody asked him buddy, why are you walking around? Your glasses are broken, so why are you wearing glasses? So he said, it can't hurt. So that's if something is not helping you, so what do you mean it can't hurt? But it's pointless. And at the moment that it's pointless, so then the question is, so why are you doing it? If it's actually not helping you, so then why are you doing it? Clearly the reason why you're doing it is because you want to make a point that anything you can do, I can do better, and I'm a woman, hear my roar. And that is not a Jewish value. If your perspective is that I want to come close to Hashem, so then the Torah says, well, that's very beautiful that you want to come close to Hashem. but this is not bringing you close to Hashem. Like, it's like you're convincing yourself that this is something that's going to bring you close to Hashem, and it's not. But if it's something that you're doing, so then all the mitzvahs of doing, so then that's not about becoming something. That's about what you're doing to the world. So then that even if there's people that are obligated, people that are not obligated, even if you're not obligated, but you're bringing the world into a better place. Over here, the mitzvah of tefillin is not to bring the world into a better place, it's to become something yourself. So if you're already there, so then you're like you're asking the guy in the gas station to fill you up when you're already full up. So then the fact that it's pointless and absurd proves that the only reason to do it is because you have an agenda. And that's why it's such a beautiful metaphor, what the Targum Innocent says, that it's like cross-dressing, because it's that the whole essence of a woman putting on tefillin is saying, I'm a man. Like, look at me. I'm like, don't think that I'm a woman, I'm a man. And that is exactly why it's prohibited. Okay, so that's regarding the prohibition of tefillin. So to summarize, that a person could think that the reason why women don't put on tefillin is because they are not important, and they're being pushed into a corner, and they're being told that the real Judaism is not for you. You can get a watered down version of Judaism, but the real stuff is only for the real Jews. Like that would be the chauvinist approach. And the true approach is that when the Torah is saying the women aren't allowed to wear tefillin, it's not because they're pushing them into a corner. It's because of the Jewish value of not trying to make a point, but rather that only to do things for the purpose of coming close to Hashem. And because it doesn't bring you close to Hashem, so therefore it's absurd to do it. And because it's absurd to do it, so the only legitimate reason why you're doing it is to make a point, which is not a Torah value. Because that's why this prohibition of wearing tefillin is not a chauvinist, sexist part of the Torah. Okay, moving on. So the next issue would be the mitzvah of learning Torah. Okay, so this is something that I think a lot of women feel very strongly oppressed in this element, and to a large degree, this element of women learning Torah, women being oppressed in the element of learning Torah, is based on a misunderstanding. It's actually not supposed to be like this, and so it starts from the fact that women were simply not educated back in the day, that for many generations, so both in the Jewish and non-Jewish worlds, so women just stayed at home and they learned how to tend to the house and work at the farm and knit and do all the stuff that women did back in the day. And for women to get an education, it was unheard of. It was only royal women would get any education whatsoever. So, and this was simply the reality for many years. So it's important to note that regardless of what Torah has to say, so the reality in society of the entire world was that the women were not educated, and which is part of the fact that women were looked at. The fact is the women were looked at as second-class citizens. The women were looked at as not able, as not capable, as not intelligent, and they were the consensus of the entire world was the women were second class. We spoke about last week how that if you look into Torah, you'll find sources that the Torah doesn't think that women are second class, but there was a certain consensus in society that actually leaked into the Jewish world as well. That because like we spent a lot of time last week discussing how that the Jewish community always lives as a part of the world that we live in, and if there's something which is very prominent in the secular world, it's going to make it into our consciousness, and it's impossible to avoid it. So women were not educated for a very long time, and it happens to be that, and I say happens to be because the two things are completely not related. It happens to be that the Torah does exempt women from the mitzvah of learning Torah. Okay, So now that's the. So first of all, I want to clarify, what does it mean the women are exempt from learning Torah? It says very clearly that it says in many sources in the Magen Avraham, like very mainstream sources, that women are absolutely obligated to learn anything which is relevant to them. Okay, meaning that they have to learn the entire Hachos Brachos, the entire Hachos Shabbos, the entire Hachos Tefillah, the entire Hachos Kashrus, certainly all the halachas of family purity, and anything that has to do with how to be a Jew, is they're obligated to learn. And to be honest, that's really enough to keep you busy for full-time learning for 10 years. 15 hours a day for 10 years. That's really, if you really, to know just what you need to know in Hilchos Brachos and Hilchos Shabbos, that these are huge, Hilchos Kashrus, these are huge undertakings. And women most women do not know everything that they need to know for the halachos which are relevant to them. And so the idea the women should feel oppressed because they're obligated in less things. So it's a bluff. It's really a bluff. So what are men obligated to learn? Men are also obligated, in addition to what women are obligated to learn, men are obligated to learn things which are not relevant to life, such as how to build a Beis HaMikdash, such as all the halachas of purity and impurity, which are not relevant today, such as there's also even things which are relevant today, but if it's not relevant to me per se. So, for example, agricultural things. Okay, there are agricultural things that are relevant to women as well, and that's how to take Trumas and Maestros, because women also have to take Trumas and Maestros. In fact, women probably have to know that more than men, because they're the ones cooking, but let's say things like how to things like kilai, things like how do you say, mixing seeds, mixing different kinds of crossbreeding. Thank you. So that's something that is not relevant to me because I don't have a farm. Okay, so but because I'm a guy, so I have an obligation to learn Hilchos Kilayim because it's Torah. Okay, so the difference between the obligation of Torah to men, the obligation of Torah to women, is in the irrelevant things. And so, why exactly would a woman feel oppressed in the fact that she doesn't have to learn the irrelevant things? That's beyond me. Okay? Now, I will add that it's actually deeper than what I'm saying. That because why is it that the men are obligated to learn even what's irrelevant and women are only obligated in what's relevant? So the reason is actually for a deeper reason, and that is because the nature of the mitzvah of learning Torah for men is different than the nature of learning Torah for women, and that is that the nature for man is that the mitzvah is in the intellectual pursuit, whereas the nature of the mitzvah for women is in the actualization of the ideals. Okay, meaning that for women, the nature of the learning Torah is that I need to learn in order to actualize, in order to do it, whereas for the nature of learning for man is in the esoteric, in the philosophical. Okay, so in other words, this dichotomy between what is the nature of learning Torah is actually another expression of a different model, and that is that it says in Chazal that what's the difference between Ish and Isha? What's the difference between Ish and Isha? That they both have the same letters, Aleph Shin, but Ish has a Yud and Isha has a Hey. Okay, so Chazal say that what's the difference between Ish and Isha? Why does the Ish have a Yud and the woman has a Hey? Because Yud is the letter for Olam Haba. Yud is the letter for the esoteric. Yud is the letter for Chochmah, for Machshava, for thought. And Hey is the letter for Olam Hazeh. Hey is the letter for the actualization. Hey is the letter for something you can put your hands on. And so men are more connected to Olam Haba, and women are more connected to Olam Hazeh. Okay, so that's why like whenever the people you have a dispute between a husband and wife, so if it's related to Olam Hazeh, so then the woman is always right. Okay? So
How many disputes have you had about Olam Haba? Like your wife?
exactly.
I'm going to heaven first.
So you got how? No, you got how.
It's
So-
not required or it's not allowed to learn.
It's not. Oh, we'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that in a minute. Okay. At this point, it's not required, but it is allowed.
Yeah.
So that's why. So men are connected to the Esrog, to the world of theoretical, to the world of thought, and women are more connected to the world of action, to the world of being real. Yeah. So that's why for women, if it's not real, so then it's not connected to you. You're not obligated. Whereas men, they're obligated in the world of thought. So that's why even if it's not practical, but I'm obligated to learn it because of the thought process involved, because of the wisdom, the esoteric, just for the wisdom itself, just for the knowledge of the theoretical knowledge of if I would be able to build a Beis Hamikdash, then what would it look like?
But I feel like anything esoterical could be applied to your life. Like really everything in Torah, even learning how to build a Beit HaMikdash, is applied to your current life, and like psychologically also applied to your current life.
You could.
I know it's not directly like I do this in the morning and I do this on Shabbat.
That'll always be interpretation. That'll always be interpretation.
Yeah, but it does apply to your life.
It could, but it's not. It doesn't have to.
No, it doesn't have to.
Like I read that Newton was convinced that if he studies the ratio of if he studies the ratio of the figures of how they built the Beis Hamikdash, then he would be able to find the golden ratio. Yeah? And like he spent many years like to figure out, like to work with the different numbers in the building, and he didn't get anywhere. But things like that. Like he thought that even though it's really esoteric, the Beis Hamikdash is not existent right now. But he thought that I could somehow make this relevant. But okay, but that's a theory. Like that's not. But
it's not a theory that there's like a lesson in every.
Ultimately, if you're going to do that, you can also extrapolate incorrect information from that. I can prove whatever I want to prove. So ultimately, it's your moral compass which is making these conclusions, not the Torah itself.
But like in the commentary, like you wouldn't find the lesson in
No, mamash not.
Mamash not?
No. Once you know that something is true, then you can say, and I even saw a beautiful hint of this in the ratio of the Beis Hamikdash.
Right.
But like, it's not in any commentaries. Huh? Sometimes, but that's because whoever the tzaddik that's writing this, he knows this is true because he knows it's true, and he finds an interesting hint of this in this esoteric halacha. But he's never going to extrapolate. He's never going to extrapolate a moral from an esoteric halacha. Okay?
I don't know if I consider building a Beit HaMikdash esoteric. I think if we have the opportunity, we get to know how to do. Like there's a whole yeshiva in the old city.
That's true. No, that's true. I meant it as an example, but you are correct. But that being said, it would be a question that there's a whole discussion about. I don't remember if women are obligated to build the Beis Hamikdash. I think they are. I think women actually are.
Interesting. Put them to work.
No, it's a different thing. Yes,
Maybe design it.
Mashiach is not the one. When it says the Mashiach is going to build a Beis Hamikdash, no, it could be she's not obligated to build a Beis Hamikdash. Anyway, that she can ask her husband. She can ask her husband to build a Beis Hamikdash for her. Okay?
She can tell him what to do.
Okay, so that's the first step. That's the first step of Torah, to understand that the difference of the obligation of learning Torah is really dependent on what the essence of the male soul versus the female soul is. That the male soul is more connected to the world of philosophical esoteric, and the female soul is more connected to the practical. But that, like I said, that's not a reason that it shouldn't be allowed to. So where's this idea that there's things which are off bounds to women? So this is stemmed from a Gemara in Saita. The Gemara at the beginning of Saita says that kol hamalamed is bitoi Torah ki'ilu malamda tiflus. That if you teach your daughter Torah, so it's as if you're teaching her nonsense. That has, there's different opinions of what exactly what tiflus means, but it's clear that it's a bad idea. Okay, so as I was in MRC, so apparently they have an English Gemara, and they put something on that they're missing the Art Scroll edition of Saita Volume 2. So I told them that I always recommend the women should start learning Gemara with Saita Volume 2, because that way by the time they get to the part about women not learning Gemara, it's too late. No, so because it's in Volume Aleph, it's volume 1. So it says in the Gemara that Kol Melamed as Bitay Torah Melamed Tiflus, Kilo Melamed Tiflus, and that you shouldn't be teaching your daughter's Gemara. So first of all, what is this talking about? So first of all, it can't be taken completely literally, because we just said that women are absolutely obligated to learn a lot of Torah. A lot of Torah. Okay,
Right.
like I said, there's so much Torah that women are obligated that they actually need to be learning many hours in order just to fulfill that requirement. So it can't be taken at face value. So it's talking about a particular thing. So a particular thing that they're not supposed to be learning. So some say that it's talking about Torah Sheba'al Peh. Okay, this is based on the Rambam. The Rambam says Torah Sheba'al is okay and Torah Sheba'al Peh is not okay. And in that, so what they say that the problem is that learning Gemara. And so that's where we got that's why all the girls went on the Gemara, because somebody told them the women aren't allowed to learn Gemara. Okay? So what does this mean? So first of all, why should this be? Like why on earth would it be forbidden for women to learn Gemara? So the commentaries explain, because when you learn Gemara, it gives you a certain slyness. What does that mean? That Gemara is based on extreme critical thinking. That when you learn Gemara, the first word in Gemara is, it says something in the Mishnah, and the first line is in Brachas Tav Beis, is Minolan. Who told you? Who told you that? Like, where does it say that? Where does it say that? And so there's a certain critical thinking that Gemara is based on. That if women are going to learn that, it's going to mess with them. Now, why is that? And what's the difference between men and women? Like, why, if it messes with women, why doesn't it mess with men? Mm-hmm. Okay, so clearly, what the Gemara means is that if a woman is getting a little bit of the type of thinking without getting the whole picture, then she's going to be in trouble. Okay? A little bit of knowledge can sometimes be very tragic, be very damaging. Okay, meaning that if I know that whenever anybody tells me anything, I should say who said so and prove it, but I don't really have the patience, nor do I have the ability to really judge things properly, to say like what's considered a good explanation and what's not. So then I'll just come out not accepting anything. Okay, so if a woman is going to actually learn Yeshiva for 5 years, and she's going to understand how the Gemara works, so then it's going to be perfectly fine for a woman to learn it as well. Whereas if she's going to just learn a snippet here, a snippet there, then she's going to misunderstand things. She's going to get the kind of slyness and the kind of critical thinking that's going to just mess with her ability to live a normal life, and she's not going to have the answers. Okay, so that's point number one. That's point number one. That when the Gemara says that a person shouldn't teach his Torah, teach his daughter Gemara, so what it refers to is a person that's learning the slyness of the Gemara, with the critical thinking of Gemara, without getting the whole picture. But if you get the whole picture, then it's certainly fine. And in fact, the Gemara talks about that there were women that were actually fine Torah scholars, fine Talmudic scholars, like Bruya, like Meir, that says that she was very much a scholar and very much knew everything. And the Gemara only compliments her. The Gemara never says that she was, she was not so frum, but she was pretty cool anyway.
So men also have to get the full picture, like everyone.
Yeah, it's just
So
because the standard was the men were going to yeshiva and women weren't going to yeshiva.
Right.
Because the reality was the women were not going to yeshiva. So if you would teach your daughter a snippet here, a snippet there, and they're not going to yeshiva, that's going to put them into a dangerous place. Okay. But if women are going to yeshiva properly, that they're going to get the whole picture, then there's nothing dangerous at all. Okay. Now, that together with the fact that at the time women actually their critical thinking wasn't up to par because they didn't get educations, because they weren't taught how to think in any educational system. So all the more so that the chances of a woman coming to incorrect conclusions because she wasn't taught how to think logically in a
critical way,
in a educational way, in a official way, so that it's much more of a danger. And for this reason, so Rav Soloveitchik said that it's absurd to say it's absurd to tell Adaras that you can get a double PhD, but you're not allowed to learn Gemara. We trust you, we trust your critical thinking to be a professor. We trust your critical thinking to be a doctor. We trust your critical thinking to be a judge. But we don't trust your critical thinking. That's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. That's if we're going to tell that to others. So we're basically telling them that your place is in the secular world. If you want to shine, if you want to be appreciated, go to the secular world, because in the Jewish world we don't want you. That's what we're telling them, and that's not the message that we want to give our daughters. And it's obviously it's obviously a ridiculous claim because the fact that we do trust them to be judges and to be doctors and to be lawyers and everything, that it's because we actually do trust them. So in the same vein that we trust them when it comes to everything else, we do trust them, and that's why simply what Rav Soloveitchik was saying is that this statement of the Gemara, even though it was brought down in Rambam, was not talking about our society. Okay, very, very simple. The Lubavitcher Rebbe also felt that it was perfectly fine for women to be learning Gemara nowadays. I didn't have time to research exactly what his rationale was. I think it's also something to do with the change in society. And lastly, I will note that this is also like in a pre-feminism time in history, that the Prisha and the Prisha in the Torah. So he writes that the lashon of the Gemara is that kol hamelamed es bitay Torah melamed tiflos, that it's a problem on the father. It's a problem for a father shouldn't teach his daughter Torah, but he says that if the daughter learns herself, then she gets a mitzvah. That there's absolutely no inhibitions for a woman to learn Torah. The problem is on the man who's teaching her Torah. Why? Because you don't know what her intentions are. You don't know what she's going to do with this, and it might end up something dangerous for whatever reason. He doesn't explain exactly, but a woman herself, if she knows herself that I want to learn Torah because I love Torah, so then no one will stop her. No one should stop her. No, everyone should just encourage her to learn as much as she wants, because that's beautiful and that's wonderful. Okay, so this is regarding Torah. It's part of the discussion of learning Torah is connected to the discussion of being a rabbi. That can you have a woman rabbi? And to which we really touched on this last week, that the answer is unequivocally yes, that Devara Neviah was a rabbi, and she was making halachic decisions. And I even saw today that there was once a rebbe. There was a rebbe who was a woman. It was the daughter-in-law of Reb Zusha. The daughter-in-law of Reb Zusha. So her husband was Reb Zusha's son, and so he was a rebbe. Then when he passed away, she took over the the being Rebbe, and the story was that somebody went to her Shalashidus. Forgot who it was. Some big Rebbe. When he stopped by her town for Shabbos, and he was a chassid at her tish for Shalashidus. So you can be so what's the thing about being a rabbi, for having a woman rabbi?
The most standout story about this rabbi was her meal that she cooked.
Oh my god.
No, that was not the point. She was saying Torah at the Shalashidus. She was saying yeah. So now what's the thing about having women rabbis? And this is so once again that we have to take everything in context. That the context of the Jewish world was that women weren't getting education until Sarah Schneider came around. So the women weren't getting any Jewish education whatsoever. So they're starting at a very, very big handicap, and there's a reality. There's nothing to do with Torah, nothing to do with Judaism. This is simply a reality of society. Period. 1 second. And so nowadays the women are able to get good Jewish educations. So there's actually no reason in the world that they shouldn't get a good, shouldn't be able to answer questions in halacha. Other women do know halacha, and women, when they know halacha, should be asked questions. I heard this story that there's somebody, I don't know if it's a true story, but somebody asked her, Moshe Feinstein, what's the bracha on a pretzel? So he didn't know what a pretzel was. So he says, "Simmer, was ist das a pretzel?" So the Simmer was his wife. So she says, "Mazayis the kamechel." She says, it's like she was answering the question for me. So of course there's no problem with having a woman answering halacha questions. That if you most of answering halacha questions is simply having information and having basic understanding, which is certainly in the ability. It's not like you have to it has nothing to do with anything that has to do with the differences between a male brain and a female brain. This is simply, we explained last time that most of being a rabbi is chachma. It's not bina, it's not das. It's simply chachma. It's simply just knowing the facts. And there's no reason in the world why a woman shouldn't be a rabbi in the sense of just answering halacha questions, and that's why there is absolutely no issue with what they call yoetzat halacha and having women answering questions, and for whatever reason that it's perfectly good, and the issue is only if they don't know halacha properly. If they only went into the program because here I'm a woman, hear my roar, and not because they want to come close to Hashem. So Mela, because they don't really care about Torah, they don't really care about Hashem, so they actually don't learn it properly, and then they just like the fact that now everybody can ask me questions, and they don't really give good answers, and unfortunately I've had stories with somebody that this yoetzat halacha is telling his wife these things which are just against halacha, mamish, really just messed up. And so you can have a bad yoetzat, but Baruch Hashem, there's amazing many God-fearing Talmidot Chachamot that are answering questions, and so there's certainly no problem with that. So what's the real reason why we don't have women rabbis in the Orthodox movement? I said last week, the reason is really as simply because of the conservative movement, because the conservative movement has made egalitarianism as the thing that they stand for, and if Orthodox shows would have women rabbis, then it would look as if they are validating the conservative movement, and so that's just a problem. That's just a social problem that we have in the Jewish world today that has nothing to do with any Torah values per se. So what we dealt with today was Tefillin and Torah and being a rabbi, and there's a lot more to talk about. I'll just give a preview that a lot of people, a lot of women have an issue with the fact that with the shows, are are geared towards men and not geared towards women, and that everything, the good stuff, is happening by the men. It's only the men can be the chazan, all the men can be a balkare, and the women are simply pushed to the back, and so is that actually a proof that halacha is actually sexist and oppressive? So stay tuned for next week. B'ezrat Hashem.